You've probably been told all your life that chemistry is everything. That spark, that instant connection, that feeling where your heart races, your stomach flips, and you're convinced that because the two of you can't take your eyes off each other, it must mean something real. But here's the truth you've been missing. Chemistry is not what makes someone stay. It may pull them in, but it's not what keeps them there. And if you've been chasing it, if you've been clinging to it as proof that a relationship is meant to last, you've already set yourself up for heartbreak. Because chemistry without depth is just fire without wood. It burns fast, it burns bright, but it doesn't last. Think about it. How many times have you met someone and felt that undeniable pull? You couldn't explain it. You couldn't resist it. You thought, this is it. But weeks later, maybe months, if you were lucky, it crumbled. The text slowed down, the calls stopped, the attention faded, and you were left wondering, what happened? You didn't lose chemistry. The fire was there. What you lost was the very thing that actually makes someone stay. And that's the part no one really tells you about. Here's where I need you to lean in. Because the reason you've been hurt before, the reason people have slipped away even when it felt like you gave them your everything, is not because you weren't attractive enough or exciting enough. It's because you were relying on chemistry to do a job it was never meant to do. Chemistry attracts. Yes, it makes two people notice each other, maybe even obsess about each other. But attraction is a doorway. It's not the home. Staying happens when there's something deeper, something quieter, something so rare that most people don't even know how to create it. And if you've been looking around wondering why some people stay together for years, why some couples keep choosing each other even after the thrill fades, you've probably asked yourself, what do they have that I don't? The answer isn't luck. It's not destiny. It's not that they found their soulmate and you haven't. It's that they learned what makes love sustainable. They built something that chemistry alone could never provide. Now here's the catch. You've been taught to chase chemistry because it feels good, gives you the rush, the high, the dopamine, and the world around you romanticizes it. Movies, music, even advice from your friends. Follow the spark, they say. But have you noticed that no one ever tells you what to do when the spark dims? And it always does. No one lives in that honeymoon rush forever. And if that's all you're depending on, the relationship dies the moment reality sets in. This is why you may have noticed a pattern in your own love life. It starts strong, it feels magnetic, then it falls apart. You're left asking, why don't they stay? And maybe deep down, you start to believe that people just don't stay for you. That maybe you're not lovable in the way that others are. But stop right there, because that belief is not the truth. People do stay. They just don't stay for chemistry. They stay for how they feel in your presence. They stay for the way you make them feel about themselves. They stay when their soul feels safe, seen, and valued in ways that go beyond attraction. Imagine this. Two people sit across from each other on a first date. There's laughter, teasing, sparks flying. Both of them feel like they've stumbled into something special. But what happens when one of them opens up about their fears, their insecurities, their messy, imperfect side? That moment right there is where the foundation is tested. Because if all you have is chemistry, that moment can feel heavy, inconvenient, maybe even repelling. But if what's building between you is connection, understanding, and trust, then that vulnerability becomes a bond. It deepens the story. It tells both people, this isn't just attraction, this is a safe place. And safety, not sparks, is what people return to again and again. And if you're honest with yourself, isn't that what you want? Not just someone who can't stop kissing you in the first weeks, but someone who still chooses you when life gets messy, when your hair isn't perfect, when your mood isn't bright. You want someone who stays, not because they can't get enough of the butterflies, but because they can't imagine life without the depth you give them. That's what you're here to understand today. What makes someone stay is not chemistry, it's the experience they have of themselves when they're with you. Think about the last time you were around someone who made you feel alive. Not because they complimented you, not because they flirted with you, but because they saw you. They listened to you like your words mattered. They made you feel lighter, more confident, more capable. Just by being around them, you walked away feeling bigger than you were before, not smaller. That feeling is addictive in a way chemistry never is. That's the secret you've been overlooking. That's the truth behind lasting love. And maybe right now, you're realizing something painful. Maybe you're realizing that in past relationships, you put all your energy into being attractive, into keeping the spark alive, into being exciting enough to hold their attention. You worked to be the person they couldn't stop thinking about, instead of being the person they couldn't imagine living without. And when it all ended, you thought you weren't enough. But the truth is, you were playing the wrong game. You were trying to win with chemistry, when the real win was always connection. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop chasing the temporary and start creating the lasting? Are you ready to stop mistaking excitement for depth? Because the moment you understand this, really understand it, your entire love life changes. You stop blaming yourself when someone leaves, because you know it wasn't about you not being attractive enough. You start building relationships on solid ground, instead of on fireworks that fade. And most importantly, you stop giving your heart to people who were only ever gonna stay until the thrill wore off. Right now, there's probably a part of you that feels a mix of relief and fear. Relief, because you finally see why things didn't work, but fear, because you wonder if you're capable of creating the kind of bond that makes someone stay. But let me reassure you, you are. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about shifting where you put your energy. It's about focusing less on being the person who excites someone in the moment, and more on being the person who creates an environment of trust, joy, and depth that no one wants to leave. And that's where your power lies. It's not in chasing sparks, it's in becoming the kind of person someone feels more themselves around. The kind of person who doesn't just light up a room for a moment, but who lights up their world in ways that last. You know now that chemistry is only the beginning. It opens the door, but it doesn't keep anyone inside. So the real question becomes, what is it that makes someone actually stay? And here's the truth. People stay when the relationship becomes a place where they can rest, grow, and feel alive in ways they can't find anywhere else. They stay when they experience a level of connection that makes leaving feel like losing a part of themselves. And that connection isn't built by accident. It's created moment by moment, choice by choice, through the way you show up. When someone is with you, they're not just experiencing you, they're experiencing who they become around you. That's the detail most people overlook. You think people leave because they stopped finding you attractive or because they found someone better. But more often than not, people leave because they don't like who they feel like when they're with you. Maybe they feel criticized, unseen, or like they can't measure up. Or maybe they feel like the best parts of them never get noticed. And when that happens, no amount of chemistry can save it. Because people are addicted to how they feel, and they will always gravitate to where they feel good about themselves. This is why the couples who make it long-term aren't the ones who had the strongest chemistry at the start. They're the ones who created a dynamic where both people felt more secure, more valued, and more understood over time. That's what roots someone. That's what transforms attraction into loyalty. And if you've been wondering why they never stayed, it's likely because they didn't find that in you. Not because you can't give it, but because you didn't realize that's what mattered most. Now think about this carefully. Have you ever noticed how some people, even without being traditionally attractive, never seem to struggle with relationships? People stick around them, they feel drawn to them, they don't just walk away easily. It's because these people have learned something powerful. They make others feel seen and valued. They give presence. They listen without judgment. They create space for vulnerability. And because of that, being with them feels like breathing easier, like coming home. That feeling is rare. That feeling is what no one wants to lose. And maybe you're sitting here wondering, how do I create that kind of connection? It starts with one thing. Not the kind of attention where you're just waiting for your turn to talk. Not the kind of attention that's surface level, but real focused attention that tells the other person, I see you, I hear you, I get you. Because when someone feels that from you, you've already given them something most of the world doesn't. You've given them safety. Safety doesn't sound as exciting as passion, but it's the foundation of everything lasting. Safety is what allows someone to bring their full self into the relationship. It's what allows them to stop performing and just be. And when they can be themselves fully without fear of judgment, that's when the relationship stops being optional. That's when it becomes essential. Because in a world where everyone is constantly pressured to prove, to perform, to polish their imperfections, finding a space where you can just exist is priceless. And no one walks away from that easily. Let's be real. You've probably been in situations where you felt like you had to keep parts of yourself hidden. Maybe you thought if they knew this about me, they wouldn't stay. So you performed. You tried to hold up the version of yourself you thought was lovable. But over time, that performance exhausted you. And maybe that's what happened with people you've been with too. They gave you the best version of themselves at first, but they didn't trust you enough to give you the real version. And when someone can't give their real self, they eventually leave, because no one can wear a mask forever. So if you want someone to stay, you have to do something radical. You have to become the person they don't need to wear the mask with. You have to create a love where flaws aren't deal breakers, where mistakes aren't fatal, where imperfections don't push love away, but actually draw it closer. Because when someone knows they can be messy, insecure, human, and still chosen, that's when they attack. That's when they stop looking for the next high and start building with you instead. Here's the mistake most people make. They think love is about impressing. They think if they look good enough, if they say the right things, if they keep the energy exciting, then the other person will stay. But impressing someone isn't the same as connecting with them. Impressing someone puts you on a pedestal, but connection puts you side by side, and no one wants to spend a lifetime on a pedestal. It's too lonely up there. They want a partner, not a performer. You need to understand this. What makes someone stay is the quiet moments, the way you look at them when they're vulnerable, the patience you give when they're imperfect, the way you make them feel like their dreams matter, like their fears are safe, like their voice has weight. Those are the moments that plant roots. Those are the moments that turn chemistry into commitment. And here's the part that might surprise you: when you focus on creating connection, chemistry doesn't disappear. In fact, it deepens. Because now the attraction isn't just about your looks or your charm. It's about the fact that being with you feels like life at its best. It's about the fact that desire isn't just physical anymore. It's emotional, mental, even spiritual. That's the kind of chemistry that doesn't fade. That's the kind that grows stronger with time. You see, the people who stay are the people who feel both safe and alive with you. Safety without aliveness feels flat, like friendship without spark. Aliveness without safety feels thrilling but dangerous, like standing on the edge of a cliff. But when you give someone both, when you create a space where they feel alive and secure at the same time, that's when you become irreplaceable. That's when you stop being just another person they dated, and you become the person they want to build a life with. And maybe as you're hearing this, you're realizing you've been chasing the wrong things. You've been focused on the excitement, the spark, the adrenaline, instead of asking, how do I make this person feel about themselves when they're with me? Because here's the truth. Someone might be blown away by your beauty, your charm, your wit, but they will stay for how you make their soul feel. They'll stay if you make them feel like they can finally stop running, stop proving, stop pretending. They'll stay if being with you feels like finally coming home. So take a moment and think, what kind of experience do people have around you? Do they feel uplifted, or do they feel judged? Do they feel seen, or do they feel like they're constantly trying to win your attention? Because the answer to that question tells you why people stay or why they leave. And the good news is, you have the power to change it. You can become the kind of person who creates a presence so rare, so nourishing, that walking away stops feeling like an option. By now you can feel the shift. You can sense the difference between being chosen for a spark and being chosen for something far deeper. But knowing it isn't enough. You have to live it, breathe it, practice it in every interaction if you want to create the kind of bond that makes someone stay. Because the truth is, you don't accidentally stumble into lasting love. You build it. And you build it through the small things. The ordinary moments, the choices that seem invisible but actually decide everything. Here's what you need to understand. People are constantly scanning the relationship they're in. Not always consciously, but deep down, they're asking themselves questions every day. Do I feel safe here? Do I feel wanted? Do I feel like myself when I'm with this person? Do I feel like I matter? When the answer is yes, they stay. When the answer is no, they leave. Even if the chemistry is blazing hot, because the body might crave attraction, but the soul craves peace. So what creates that peace? It's in the way you communicate. Not just the words you use, but the tone, the timing, the intention behind them. You might think big gestures are what prove your love, but it's the small, consistent signals that speak louder. The way you listen when they're stressed, the patience you show when they're not at their best, the softness in your voice when they're hurting. Those are the signals that whisper, this is safe, this is real, this is where you belong. Think about the last argument you had in a relationship. Maybe your instinct was to win, to prove your point, to make them understand you. But what actually matters isn't whether you win, it's whether the argument becomes a place where they still feel respected and cared for. Because if every disagreement turns into a war, no matter how much chemistry you have, eventually the battlefield becomes too exhausting to stay on. But if disagreements turn into deeper understanding, if conflict actually becomes a place where you learn each other better, then even fights can make the relationship stronger. And here's the deeper truth. People don't stay for perfection, they stay for repair. They stay when they see that even after the cracks, you come back together stronger. That's what makes them trust that this isn't fragile, that this won't fall apart the moment things get hard. Because every relationship will face storms. There's no avoiding that. But the couples who last are the ones who learn how to hold on to each other in the rain, not just in the sunshine. Now let's talk about another piece most people miss: appreciation. You'd be amazed how many relationships die not from betrayal or screaming fights, but from neglect. From the slow erosion of gratitude. Because when someone feels unseen, when they feel like nothing they do is noticed, they start to wither inside the relationship. And that withering becomes the beginning of the end. But when you make appreciation a habit, when you point out the small things, when you celebrate their effort, when you remind them often of what you love about them, that's when you create an atmosphere people want to stay in. Because everyone longs to feel valued. Everyone wants to feel like their presence makes life better for the person they're with. Here's something powerful: appreciation deepens attraction. The more you genuinely notice and affirm someone's unique qualities, the more magnetic you become to them. Not because you're flattering them, but because you're reflecting back a version of themselves that they love being. And when you do that consistently, they start to associate you with the best parts of themselves. They start to feel like the world is brighter around you. And tell me, why would anyone want to walk away from that? But let's get real for a moment. Sometimes the reason people don't stay is because they don't feel challenged in the right way. They may feel comfortable, but not alive, safe, but stagnant. And that's the other side of this equation. It's not enough to just provide safety. You also have to provide inspiration. You have to be the kind of person who doesn't just make life calm, but makes life feel like it's expanding. Because when people stay, they're not just staying for peace, they're staying for growth. They're staying because with you, they become more than they were before. Ask yourself, when someone is with you, do they feel like they're shrinking or expanding? Do they feel like life gets smaller or bigger? Because the relationships that last are the ones where both people feel like they're stepping into more of themselves. Where dreams are encouraged, not dismissed. Where growth is celebrated, not feared. Where the relationship isn't a cage, but a launch pad. And if you can give someone both safety and growth, both roots and wings, then you've given them something priceless. And don't think you have to be perfect to do this. In fact, perfection kills connection. People don't stay because you never mess up. They stay because when you mess up, you take responsibility. They stay because you're humble enough to admit when you're wrong, strong enough to apologize, and willing enough to learn. That vulnerability creates trust, and trust is the real glue. Without it, nothing lasts. With it, even the hardest moments can be survived. Now pause and reflect on this. How have you been showing up in your past relationships? Were you so focused on keeping the excitement alive that you neglected creating safety? Were you so focused on impressing that you forgot to truly connect? Were you so focused on avoiding mistakes that you forgot to appreciate the small joys? This isn't about blaming yourself, it's about waking up, because the love you want isn't impossible. It's not out of reach. It's waiting for you to align your energy with what actually matters. You want someone to stay, then create a love where both of you feel bigger, freer, stronger together. Create a space where even in the darkest days, they know they're not alone. Create a bond where growth is the norm and appreciation is constant. Because when you do, leaving will feel like cutting off oxygen, and no one willingly does that. Here's something you need to hear. You are already capable of this. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to fake a version of yourself that feels impossible to maintain. What you need is awareness. You need to shift your focus from the surface to the soul, from the spark to the foundation. You need to ask yourself every day, how am I making this person feel? How am I helping them feel safe, alive, valued, and free? If you can do that, you'll unlock the secret that so many people spend their whole lives missing. And here's the beauty of it. When you live this way, you don't just attract people who stay, you filter out the ones who never would. Because someone who's only interested in excitement won't stick around for depth. Someone who's only in it for the thrill won't know what to do with safety. And that's a blessing. Because why waste your time on people who were only ever going to leave? When you start building love the right way, you naturally attract people who are ready to stay, who are hungry for the same things you are. So the next time you feel that spark with someone, don't just ask yourself, is there chemistry? Ask yourself, is there connection? Is there trust? Is there growth? Is there appreciation? Because those are the questions that determine whether the story lasts. And once you start living by those questions, you'll never fall for the illusion of chemistry alone again. You'll know better, you'll choose better, and you'll create better. So here we are. You've seen how chemistry can pull someone close, but it's not what makes them stay. You've seen that the secret isn't in chasing sparks, it's in creating safety, connection, growth, and appreciation. But let's go even deeper. Because staying isn't just about what the other person feels, it's also about what you feel. Because lasting love is not one-sided. It's not about you working endlessly to make someone else feel safe while you slowly disappear. It's about building something mutual, something balanced, something where you're not just holding someone, you're being held too. And this is where so many people go wrong. They believe that if they just give enough, sacrifice enough, prove enough, the other person will stay. But giving without receiving isn't love, it's self-erasure. And here's the truth you need to hold on to. The kind of love that lasts is the kind where both people are willing to build. Not just one. Both people lean in. Both people invest. Both people feel responsible for the bond. That's when staying becomes effortless. That's when leaving feels unfair. You've probably had moments in your life where you gave too much. Where you bent until you almost broke. Where you thought, if I just show them how much I care, they won't walk away. But that only left you drained and resentful, didn't it? Because here's what you forgot. Love doesn't grow in imbalance, it withers. One-sided effort can make someone stay for a while. Out of convenience, out of guilt, out of habit, but not out of love. And that's not what you're here for. You're here for the kind of staying that feels alive, that feels chosen, that feels mutual. So let's flip the question. What makes you stay? What makes you feel safe enough, alive enough, valued enough, that you choose someone again and again? Because when you know your own answers, you stop settling for half love. You stop begging people to stay who were never meant to. You stop twisting yourself into knots to keep people who only wanted the spark, but never the depth. You start demanding reciprocity, and that shift alone changes everything. Lasting love is built when both people ask the same question every day. How can I make this person's world better? Not how can I get what I want? Not how can I win this argument? But how can I leave them feeling lighter, safer, more seen, more alive today. When two people live that way, love stops being fragile. It becomes unshakable. Because both people are filling each other's cup. Both people are creating a space so rare, so nourishing, that walking away would feel like losing air. But here's the part that matters most for you right now. You can't fake this. You can't trick someone into staying. You can't just use the right words or the right gestures while your heart is somewhere else. Because people feel energy. They know when safety is real, when appreciation is genuine, when love is present, and they also know when it's not. That's why you have to live this truth from the inside out. You can't just make someone feel safe. You have to be safe. You can't just say you value them. You have to truly value them. You can't just pretend to grow. You have to actually be growing. That authenticity is what makes the difference. And here's the beautiful thing. When you live this way, you don't just create love for someone else. You transform yourself. You become calmer, stronger, more grounded, more intentional. You stop being addicted to the roller coaster of temporary highs and start building something steady, fulfilling, and real. And that changes how you move in every part of your life. You stop chasing, you stop begging, you stop wondering, why don't they stay? Because now, the people who are meant to stay naturally do. And the ones who don't, you let them go, without clinging, without losing yourself. This is freedom, the freedom to stop measuring your worth by who leaves or who stays. The freedom to know that love isn't about proving yourself, it's about creating something mutual and meaningful. The freedom to stop replaying old heartbreaks and finally step into relationships that feel safe, alive, and lasting. That's the freedom you deserve. So take a moment right now and breathe it in. You don't need to chase sparks anymore. You don't need to doubt yourself every time someone walks away. You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to keep people who were never meant to stay. What you need is to align with the truth. Chemistry brings people together, but it's trust, safety, growth, and appreciation that keep them. And you are capable of creating that. More than capable, you're ready. Think about the future you want. The relationship where you wake up every morning, knowing you're chosen, not just for your looks, not just for the butterflies, but for the way you make each other feel safe, alive, and whole. The love where you don't live in fear of being left, because the bond is too deep, too real, too nourishing to be abandoned. That future is not a fantasy. It's not reserved for the lucky few. It's waiting for you the moment you decide to stop chasing chemistry and start building connection. So let this sink in. The secret to what makes someone stay isn't about being the most attractive, the most exciting, the most thrilling. It's about being the place where their soul feels at home. It's about being the person who makes them feel both safe enough to rest and inspired enough to grow. It's about building something where both of you choose each other again and again, not because you need to, but because you want to. That's love, that's staying, that's the truth you've been searching for. And from this moment on, you'll never see relationships the same way again.